You wake up and within 60 seconds you are already reacting. A notification pulls your attention. A thought about yesterday's argument creeps in. A low feeling settles in your chest before you have even stood up. And you tell yourself, this is just how mornings are. But here is what the Stoics understood that most people never figure out. The morning is not something that happens to you. It is something you either shape or surrender. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, began every single morning with a deliberate practice of the mind. Not exercise, not a cold shower, a conscious decision about who he was going to be that day. He wrote in his private journal, words never meant for anyone else. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He was not writing that for followers. He was writing it as a reminder to himself. Because even an emperor, surrounded by war, betrayal, and endless demands, had to choose his inner state every morning. If he needed that discipline, what does that say about the rest of us? You might be thinking right now, I am not an emperor. My problems are different. My life is more complicated than sitting down to write in a journal. And that is exactly the trap the Stoics warned about. We use the uniqueness of our circumstances as a reason to avoid the one thing that is always within our reach, the discipline of our own mind. At 45, at 55, at 65, you have lived enough to know that the world does not calm down. Responsibilities do not shrink. People do not stop disappointing you. The news does not become less alarming. The body does not grow more cooperative. What changes, if anything changes at all, is whether you have developed the inner architecture to meet all of it without being shattered. That architecture is built in the morning, not at the gym, not in a meeting, not by checking what happened overnight. In the quiet space between waking and reacting, that is where the Stoic work begins. This is not about 10 easy steps to a perfect day. This is about 10 deliberate habits that, over time, fundamentally change how you meet your emotions, your challenges, and your life. Not because they are magic, because they are honest. The first habit is what the Stoics called the morning review of expectations. Before you do anything else, before you reach for your phone or speak to anyone, sit still for 2 minutes and ask yourself one question. What difficult thing might happen today, and how do I want to meet it? This practice has a name in Stoic philosophy, premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. It sounds dark. It is actually the opposite of dark. It is honest preparation. Seneca wrote, "Let us prepare our minds as if we had come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing." What he meant was not to live in fear of the worst. He meant, stop being surprised by difficulty. A man who expects smooth roads is shattered by the first stone. A man who expects stones walks calmly over them. Try this tomorrow. Before you stand up, think of one thing that might go wrong today. Not to dwell on it, not to spiral, just to name it, acknowledge it, and ask yourself, if this happens, who do I want to be in that moment? That single question separates reaction from intention. The second habit is silence before stimulation. Most people flood their mind with information within the first minutes of waking. News, messages, social media, the radio. All of it is noise that arrives before you have established your own inner signal. The Stoics had no smartphones, but Epictetus understood the principle completely. He taught that the chief task in life is to identify and separate what is within our control from what is not. The moment you open a news feed, you are handing your attention to things almost entirely outside your control. Give yourself 30 minutes in the morning that belong only to you. No input from the outside world, just your own thoughts, your coffee, your breath, the light coming through the window. This is not laziness. This is the foundation of clear thinking. You might be thinking, 30 minutes is a luxury I do not have. But consider how much time you already spend consuming things that leave you more anxious, not less. The question is not whether you have time. The question is what you are choosing to do with the time you already have. The third habit is physical stillness combined with deliberate breath. Not yoga, not a complex routine, simply sitting still, breathing slowly, and feeling the weight of your body in the chair or on the floor. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, that is enough. Marcus Aurelius returned constantly in his writings to the idea of grounding oneself in the present moment, in the physical reality of being alive right now. He wrote about stripping away the noise and returning to what is immediate and real. The breath is always immediate. The breath is always real. When emotions rise in the morning, and they will, the breath is the first anchor. The fourth habit is reading one sentence of Stoic philosophy and sitting with it. Not a chapter, not a podcast about philosophy. One sentence. Read it slowly, then put the book down and think about what it actually means in your life today. There is a reason Marcus Aurelius wrote in short, dense passages. He was not writing essays. He was writing instruments of focus. A single line meant to be carried through the day like a stone in your pocket, something you return to and turn over in your hand when the day gets difficult. Take this line from Epictetus. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Read that once. Then ask yourself honestly, how much of my mental energy this morning is already going toward what I am missing, what went wrong, what I still have not achieved? And how much is going toward what is actually here, what is working, what I have built over a lifetime of effort? For people who have lived 40, 50, 60 years, this question carries real weight. You have accumulated both losses and gifts. The Stoic morning asks you to choose, consciously, where your attention lands first. The fifth habit is writing 3 things you are grateful for, but with one strict condition. They must be specific. Not, I am grateful for my health. That is a category, not a reality. Instead, I am grateful that I walked to the kitchen this morning without pain. Or, I am grateful that my daughter called yesterday and laughed at something I said. Specificity forces honesty, and honesty is what makes this practice work. Vague gratitude is a performance. Specific gratitude is a recalibration of the nervous system. It pulls your attention from abstraction into the actual texture of your life. The Stoics did not use the word gratitude often, but they practiced it constantly. Seneca wrote entire letters about the discipline of noticing what you have been given, by circumstance, by other people, by the simple fact of being alive at all. He considered ingratitude one of the greatest failures of character, not because it was impolite, but because it was a form of blindness. A man who cannot see what he has will never have enough. The sixth habit is setting one clear intention for the day. Not a to-do list, not a schedule. One sentence that describes the kind of person you want to be today. You might write, "Today I will respond to frustration with patience," or "Today I will listen more than I speak," or simply, "Today I will not allow other people's urgency to become my panic." This is different from planning. Planning organizes your time. Intention organizes your character. And character, the Stoics believed, is the only thing that is truly yours. Your calendar can be disrupted, your plans can collapse, but your intention, the inner standard you set for yourself each morning, that travels with you through everything. The seventh habit is what I will call the brief audit of yesterday. Not a lengthy self-criticism session, not rumination, just two honest questions asked quietly before the new day fully begins. What did I do well yesterday? And where did I fall short of the person I want to be? Epictetus taught his students to examine their days with the same calm detachment a physician uses when examining a patient, not with judgment and shame, but with clear eyes and practical interest. The goal is not to feel bad. The goal is to see clearly. Many people at this stage of life have developed a habit of either avoiding self-reflection entirely because it feels uncomfortable, or drowning in it because old regrets have a powerful pull. The Stoic practice asks for something more disciplined than either of those: a brief, honest look, then a forward turn. Seneca practiced this every evening, but the principle works in the morning as well. He wrote, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, I examine my entire day and go back over what I have done and said." He was not torturing himself, he was maintaining his inner compass. You might be thinking, I already know my mistakes, I do not need to revisit them every morning. But there is a difference between carrying your mistakes as weight and examining them as information. One crushes you, the other guides you. The eighth habit is movement with awareness. This does not mean an intense workout, though if that is your practice, honor it. It means that whatever movement you do in the morning, even walking slowly to make your coffee, you do it with full attention. You feel your feet on the floor. You notice the temperature of the air. You are present in your body rather than lost in your thoughts. The Stoics believed deeply in the connection between a disciplined body and a disciplined mind. Marcus Aurelius trained physically throughout his life, even during campaigns and illness, not because he was chasing a physical ideal, but because he understood that the mind that cannot govern the body will struggle to govern anything else. For people in their 50s and 60s, this habit carries particular weight. The body changes. It becomes less predictable, less cooperative. The Stoic response is not to fight that reality with frustration or deny it with false optimism. It is to meet the body where it is, move it with respect and intention, and recognize that presence in the physical world is itself a form of philosophical practice. The ninth habit is a moment of perspective. Before the day pulls you into its demands, take 60 seconds to remind yourself of something the Stoics return to again and again. You are a small part of something vast, and most of what feels urgent today will be forgotten within a year. Marcus Aurelius wrote about looking at human affairs from above, imagining the sweep of time, the rise and fall of empires, the endless cycle of generations. He did not do this to feel insignificant. He did it to feel free. When you hold the full scale of existence in your mind, even briefly, the morning's irritations lose their grip. The 10th habit is the simplest and the most difficult. It is the habit of making a single decision before you leave your morning space and enter the world. The decision is this: today, I will not be a victim of my own emotions. That sounds straightforward. It is not. Because emotions are powerful and they arrive without asking permission. Anger comes when someone disrespects you. Anxiety comes when uncertainty grows. Grief comes when you remember what you have lost. Fear comes when you think about what is still ahead. The Stoics never said these emotions are wrong. They never taught that you should feel nothing. That is a misunderstanding of their philosophy that has persisted for centuries. What they taught is something far more demanding and far more liberating. You are not your first reaction. Between the emotion and the response, there is a space, and in that space lives your freedom. Epictetus, who was born a slave and spent his early life with no physical freedom whatsoever, understood this more deeply than perhaps anyone who has ever lived. He wrote, "It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. A man who owned nothing, who had been beaten and controlled by others, who had no power over his external circumstances, built an interior life so strong that no one could touch it. You have more external freedom than Epictetus ever had. The question his life asks you is, have you built the interior freedom to match it? This is what 10 deliberate morning habits add up to over time. Not a perfect day, not the absence of difficulty, but a self that meets the day from a position of intention rather than reaction. A self that has already done the inner work before the outer world begins its demands. Think of someone you know, perhaps someone older, who seems to move through difficulty with a kind of quiet steadiness. They are not unaffected by what happens to them. They feel it all. But there is something anchored in them that does not break. That quality is not luck, and it is not personality. It is practice. It is the accumulated result of thousands of mornings when they chose, deliberately and quietly, who they were going to be. You can begin that practice tomorrow, not with all 10 habits at once. Choose one, the one that spoke to you most directly in what you have heard today. Do it tomorrow morning with full attention and honest effort. Then do it the next day, and the day after that. The Stoics did not promise transformation. They promised something better than transformation. They promised clarity. The kind of clarity that comes not from having all the answers, but from knowing every single morning exactly where you stand. Marcus Aurelius wrote near the end of his life, "Confine yourself to the present, not because the past does not matter and the future does not exist, but because the present morning, this one, right now, is the only place where any real change has ever happened or ever will. That is where your work begins, not someday. Tomorrow morning, before the world starts talking,